Hey y'all, welcome to Yelling at the Screen, presented by Just Awesome Because Productions. Okay, today we're going to talk about Super Bowl 59 because, oh my gosh, I was not always a football fan, right? I was not always a football fan. And I say that to say, of about the 20-ish Super Bowls that I've seen, watched, cared about, and kind of knew what was happening, this was by far the most vigorous beatdown I've ever seen. And this is what I was kind of explaining to my friend. I was like, you see beatdowns and blowouts like this in the NFL. Like, that's not the crazy part. It's the fact that this is the Super Bowl, and these aren't surprise teams. These were the top two teams all season. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs were number one this season, I believe. They beat like everyone. I think they might have lost 2 or 3 games. I don't have their record right in front of me just now, but they won a lot this season. Now, let's be real. There was definitely concern about the performance of their team literally all season. They had a couple of wins that was like by the hair of your chinny chin chin. So I'm not going to act like they have been a dominant first place team all season. But the reality is, and at the end of the day, they found a way to win no matter what throughout all of the regular season and the playoffs. So for you to take that and then to come into this Super Bowl with two back-to-back Super Bowls, you're defending your previous win, you're going for history with a three-peat. For you to come in with that type of energy and lineage to have that type of performance is like really embarrassing. Now, let's give the Eagles some absolute love. I'm a Giants fan, go Big Blue, but let's be real, the Giants have been incredibly stupid. Our front office is just, we don't even got to talk about it. Say all that to say, I have been so happy for Saquon Barkley. And I love that he has found a place, a home in the Philadelphia Eagles. They're treating him right. He's getting to play well. You know, the city embraced him. Like, that was really beautiful to see. And for it to end up in a Super Bowl win for him was just beautiful icing on the cake. Now, Saquon is new to the Eagles. So in reality, it's Jalen's team, right? So Jalen Hurts, I'm very happy for him as well to get this win. It is no secret that Patrick Mahomes is kind of considered like the best modern day quarterback. I know they have him in talks with Tom Brady about the GOAT. I personally feel like, yes, I think he's a phenomenal quarterback, and I think that he's obviously going to be a Hall of Fame in the Hall of Fame. I don't love having GOAT conversations about players while they're still playing. Like, I don't know if that's a weird distinction. I feel like the greatest who ever do it should kind of be determined when they're done doing it. I don't know. That's just me. But say all that to say, I think, Patrick Mahomes has proven himself as a top quarterback over and over again. This is by far the worst I've ever seen him play. This is by far the worst beatdown I've ever seen him have. I don't really follow college ball almost in any regard too much. So I don't know his college history. I don't really know his college record. So I don't know if he was really great or really bad there. I'm assuming he was really good, but I don't know that. But in terms of him in the NFL, this is the worst I've ever seen him beat. And we have seen him injured and play through injuries and kind of tough out some tough matchups and even losing some tough things. But as far as I could see in terms of the eye test, I didn't see anything that would have hampered him in a way that he couldn't perform. I just think that the Eagles defense shut them down, and they were crawling through the pocket to get to Patrick Mahomes multiple times. So, yeah, that Eagles defense definitely deserves a shout out. I do want to shout out the Kansas City defense because I think you do need to give credit where credit is due. The Philadelphia Eagles have been doing a masterclass of running the ball, mostly led by Saquon Barkley, right? So Saquon has literally been running through the NFL. Like, I don't even think I can emphasize how much he is running through the NFL. I believe he set a single season record this year. He had an opportunity to beat the regular season record. Personally, I feel like they should have had him play against the Giants and he should have just won the record and it would have been a beautiful moment all around. But I understood you guys already had the season one, rest him, and also no threat of injuries for the playoffs. But for the sake of history, I'd have been like, put him in coach, but that's just me. But yeah, Saquon has been running through the NFL consistently against almost every single team. Well, I don't even think I can think of a team that had stopped him successfully. Say all that to say, the Kansas City defense stopped Saquon. I don't think I have seen a better containment of a knockout player, especially in a crucial moment like I did in that Super Bowl matchup. So the Kansas City defense for Saquon was very, very good. They absolutely should get all of the credit for that. Now, here's how I feel. The Kansas City Chiefs did not score a single point until the 30-ish second mark of the third quarter. I think it's like 34, 35 seconds, something like that, left on the clock in the third quarter before they even scored a point. So to that point, I'm kind of looking at it like, y'all maybe want to let Saquon run and maybe try to stop the throwing game because whatever you guys were stopping, you did correctly, but what you weren't containing, you weren't doing correctly. So I'll try something new. I don't know. But let's just talk about these numbers. Okay, Kansas City had 1 first down for the entire first half of football. That's rough. That is so rough. In fact, I can't be sure just right now on the top of my head, but I believe, I could be wrong because it could be this happened in the second half. I can't be sure. But I think the only time that they converted a first down was when Patrick was running for his life yet again, and he did like a backwards flick to Travis Kelce, and then Travis was able to catch it and go like a couple yards, and that was a first down conversion. Whether that happened in the first half or the second half, I don't remember, but I distinctly remember that was one of their very few for third down conversions. So yeah, they didn't even score points until basically the end of the third quarter. And they only put 6 up on the board because they went for 2 and they failed in that conversion. I wasn't mad at the decision. I mean, that makes sense because at that time the score was what, 6-34 maybe? Yeah, I think at that point it was just ridiculous. But it's crazy when you look at it because in the fourth quarter, there's 8 minutes left. The score is 60-40. Like, the game is done. And so I was kind of looking at like the rest of it is literally just decoration. But the Eagles still played hard because in the fourth quarter, there's 9 minutes and 45 seconds left. This complete destructive sack that they put on Patrick Mahomes, I remember when I saw it, I felt the pain in my shoulder, the way that they Patrick was like fully loaded back in ready to just let go of a complete deep ball, right? And they caught him at the end of it, shipped the ball out. They were able to recover. And it was just like, oh my shoulder hurt looking at that. So they really didn't even score again until like 2 minutes and 55 seconds in the fourth. And then of course they had, they did yada, yada, yada. But like I said, at that point, the score is just decoration. You have to put the score up at that point just so that when they report the final score in everywhere, it doesn't look as bad as it really was. And when I was watching, so I watched the game, I was at a Super Bowl party. I was actually at 3, but that's a whole other story. I was at a Super Bowl party, so I was watching, but I decided to watch it again so I can actually see the game and actually see like when and where things happen and not just like in the emotion of watching it with a bunch of people, And the Kansas City literally scored all of their points like with less than 3 minutes in the fourth quarter. Like the 22 that makes it look a little bit better all happened within like the last 3 minutes in the fourth quarter. And even to that, when I think it was either Worthy or D Hop, that touchdown was largely uncontested. Like the 2 defensive players that were near him were kind of like, yeah, good catch, bro. Like it's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, okay, next. Like, because it doesn't matter at this point. They were already dousing their coach in Gatorade because the game was over. But I'm still in shock. That's what's crazy. I'm still in shock. Do you realize that the Philadelphia Eagles, with more than 2 minutes on the clock in the fourth quarter of a Super Bowl, put their backups in? Like, that's just, and even to that, it's just like, if you look at it, Kansas City scored under 3 minutes in the fourth, and that's also coincides with when Philly put in their backup. So that was, oof. I think what makes this win so prominent the way it was is that, honestly, the Eagles crushed their souls so early on. I was watching ESPN, and on First Take, RC made a couple of great points. And one of the things he was saying is that, like, somewhere in the first half, I forget the time slot that he was referring to, he was saying that the KC team was in their offensive huddle, and then they break, and you see them just like walking to the line. And it's just like, I don't care how bad it is. You can't bring that energy. Because especially that was like before halftime at that point. You technically kind of sort of still have a shot, right? I remember when I was watching, it was at some point in the third quarter, and they showed like the whole KC offensive line that was on the bench because the defense was on the field at the time. And they just looked so sad and defeated. And I'm like, I get it. Like, listen, as an athlete, I totally get it. Because when you know. There's kind of nothing that they can do to really alter what was going to happen. You kind of still got to keep trying. Like, it was a beatdown. I feel so bad for the player, and I don't know his name. And it's honestly probably for his benefit that I don't know his name. They cut to the bench, and he was like boo-hoo crying, and one of the assistant coaches were trying to like cheer him up. And it was just like, bro, we get it. Like, what else are you supposed to do? Yeah, that was rough. I'm really trying to think of positives, and I can't really think of any positives for KC, really. Yeah. Okay, so now Super Bowl's over, right? We know the results. It's really interesting some of the things that are coming out of the camp. So Travis Kelce is saying that he's not sure if he's coming back, which is interesting. I wasn't aware that he was thinking about retirement yet. It's kind of intriguing because if they three-peated, it's interesting because I assumed that if they three-peated, I thought for sure Andy Reid was going to retire, like on a win, on a high, and go out, right? Patrick still has a lot of football in him, and I think he's still going to play regardless of results. Like I said, maybe Travis was already talking or thinking about retirement. That wasn't on my radar. I don't track like a lot of football rumors nearly as close as I do like NBA rumors. And so I had never heard that Travis was thinking about retirement yet. So that was news to me. And so to me, I'm thinking like, man, you can't go out like that. Like, that sucks. But you can't go out there like that. You have to have a better memory out the door. But then at the same time, it's like, well, you lost in the Super Bowl, which technically is respectable, right? The score wasn't, but the achievement of getting there is respectable because not that many people get there, right? But then if he goes to play another season and they don't even make it to the Super Bowl, doesn't that make it kind of even worse? I don't know. I just feel like as a professional athlete, that couldn't be my last memory, so I would have to come back, whether my body wanted to or not. Like, listen, we got to do it again. So I do hope he comes back. I don't know where the Kansas City will stand in terms of their team makeup. I think it does look different next season for a plethora of reasons. I don't even feel like they were really at full strength this season. Like I said, a lot of their wins this season was like by the hair of their chinny chin chin. And you can take that and be like, hey, a win is a win and we keep moving on, great. But I think you want to feel better about your play and about where you stand as a team throughout this season. I still think that they need maybe another go-to guy as a wide receiver. That's no disrespect to Worthy. That's no disrespect to D-Hop. I don't know. I just think they need another, like, go get that ball kind of guy. Like, I think that they need that. Chris Jones, I love him. I think he might need some more help. And now I'm also a little bit concerned about his own health. So I don't know if KC can rely on him for another like full season of his defense and that alone. So I would like to see some more help for Chris Jones on that defensive line as well. Let's switch over to Philly really quick, right? Because they are the ones that won. Go Birds. Like I said, as a Giants fan, I was really rooting for Saquon. People kept asking me like, who was I rooting for? It was really interesting. This Super Bowl was really a joy for me because neither was my team, so I could truly just enjoy. Think we had two great. I'm more of a quarterback person, so for me, if you're gonna ask me most things, my thought defaults to a quarterback, which is probably what most fans do. So for me, it's like quarterback and who they're throwing to is like the things I care about the most. On both sides of the ball, I had fans. I don't know the Eagles like wide receivers and stuff that distinctly. I am aware of them because they've been winning so much and I've been watching a lot of their games this season, so I know a lot of those names. For me, it was more so the Saquon story that really had me tuned into Philly. I really, really like Jalen Hurts as a quarterback. I think he has a lot of resilience to him. Like I said, I don't really watch or follow college ball too much, but hearing the stories of him getting benched and switching teams and kind of overcoming that and still winning and all that stuff like that, I think that's beautiful. I think he has really been a great leader and stabilizing presence for the Eagles in the quarterback position for a good while now. So, yeah, I'm a Jalen Hurts fan. I think Patrick Mahomes is definitely a lot more flashy. I think, yeah, but at the same time, I think Jalen gets the job done. I do know there was some criticism of his throwing ability, but I don't really think that can be questioned after this game because, let's be real, Jalen wasn't completely flawless. There was, I believe, one interception. But even with that, I remember they showed the sideline and Jalen and the offensive line were like huddled around their tablet, like reviewing it to make sure it didn't happen again. And I was like, yo, first of all, that's leadership, and that's what you look for in your quarterback. And second of all, I was like, I love the accountability. I was like, hey, what did we do wrong? How do we fix it? How do we make sure it doesn't happen again? And let's just get back on the field and go after it. So yeah, I feel like Jalen really did his thing. Him and the Eagles, they did a fantastic job. I think they think their first touchdown was the tush push. Yeah, and here's the thing. I think so many people are like, oh, they're just gonna tush push down the field, whatever. I don't remember seeing them do it a ton. I remember the touchdown because they had the initial completion that was called a touchdown, but upon review, you saw that his knee was down on like the 1 yard line, right? They go line up for the tush push and go get it. That's a rushing touchdown for Jalen. And I don't really think they were in a tight situation for the whole rest of the game. I'm trying to think. I can't think of them being in a tight situation the rest of the game. It was a beatdown, like definitively. Poof. I had never seen anything like that before. Okay, so yeah, RC, he made a great point, and I would definitely like to reiterate it here. When we talk about great quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts kind of seems to kind of just be like oh yeah, kind of mention. It's Patrick, Lamar, Joe Cool, and Josh Allen, right? I think those, four are usually the ones in that conversation. I'm trying to think if I'm missing any others. Of course, well, listen, Jaden Daniels, I believe he's Rookie of the Year this year. Definitely keep an eye out on him. But I'm just thinking in terms of who we usually talk about, right? I want to give a shout out to Jordan Love because I do like him as a quarterback as well. But just in terms of who we usually are talking about in terms of some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL over the past several years. These guys are a little bit younger, so they're definitely going to have their time, and I think they need to add their name to that conversation at some point. But just, in recent history. I don't really feel like Jalen has always been added to that list. Now, I think Jalen wins. Like I said, even from college to now, I think he makes and finds ways to win. I don't think that their winning is always highlighted by what Jalen does specifically as a quarterback on the field. And I want to make that distinction because I do think that Jalen is a leader. I think he's proven that multiple times over. I think that we need to put some more respect on Jalen Hurts' name as a quarterback, full stop. Because if their offense predicates on running often and it's successful and you do it well, why is your quarterback being penalized for not doing something because they're still winning? Like, I think it's something different because we have seen offenses like this. I think it's something different where you run the ball because your quarterback can't do something. That's not the case. They just run the ball because their running offense is so good. And then if and when they need a completion from Jalen, he goes and gets it. And then, of course, what we have been now coined as the tush push, a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, they're going for it. They're going to go get it. And I think it's so rare that they don't get those conversions, right? So, and even in those tush push situations, they have the capacity to do that because of the strength and execution of Jalen Hurts. Other teams have tried. They do not have the same success record. I think Josh Allen is another bigger body quarterback. And even when they do, I don't really like to refer to what they do as a tush push because it has a little bit of a different execution. But a similar thing in terms of going forward in a fourth and short kind of situation. Josh Allen, in my opinion, tends to jump over the pile. Versus Jalen is generally just going straight through the pile with just leg strength and determination with maybe a big one of the bigger guys pushing him from behind. Like, it's a sight to see, and we have not seen a team successfully stop them continuously. Like, they'll get a stop every now and again, but in terms of continuously, I've yet to see a team stop them continuously. I just think, generally speaking, we need to put some more respect on Jalen Hurts' name. He is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and he's a Super Bowl MVP. And in terms of modern day football, there are only a handful of quarterbacks that can say that. And in fact, I'm trying to think, in terms of active quarterbacks, I think it might just be Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, because the quarterbacks that have beaten Patrick in the past, I believe, have all retired. I could be wrong, but I also could be right. But yes, this does officially make the end of the NFL season. It's always a little bittersweet for me. I'm always a little bit glad when the NFL season ends, just because I am a sports fan and I do like a lot of multitude of sports. But NFL is probably like my third favorite sport to watch. So say all that to say, when the NFL ends, it means like the other sports that I'm also really into, I don't have to like worry about like, oh, missing certain games, whatever the case may be. So the NFL has had its shine. They finished their season. It's very, very interesting to see what next year looks like for Philly and their lineup. I don't remember the exact deal that they locked in with Saquon. I could be wrong, but I think it was kind of like maybe a it was a shorter term deal. So it'd be interesting to see if they lock him in long term. Obviously, all of these guys that helped you get to the Super Bowl, who do you keep? Yeah. I believe Pickett is Jalen's backup quarterback. It'll be even interesting to see if they kind of get creative there. And then Kansas City. I think Kansas City makes a lot of moves in this offseason. I think number one that we should be looking at and concerned about is whether or not Andy Reid comes back. I do think there's going to be a lot of criticism for this beatdown, and I think Andy Reid and the offensive coordinator should have to answer a lot of questions, honestly. I don't think that diminishes the lineage of history that they have put forth in terms of good football consistently, but I just think in terms of, and I'm not one to think, so this is the thing with football that kind of also is not my favorite element of it. Football is one and done. You play a game and you go home. This is it. I prefer a little bit more of a season type situation. It's funny because even as a tennis player, matches are one and done as well. But of course, because it's an all year type of calendar of playing, is that even if you do lose to a person, you have another shot at them in another tournament type of thing. But in football, that's it. It's one game and you're done. You don't have this type of setup until the next year, and you have to go at least 18 weeks to try and get back to it. So there's a lot more pressure and things into that. Even though, in my opinion, I think this is one bad game, it's just like the worst time to have one bad game. I don't think we should be overreacting to it. For me, it's just the shock of like, wow, I haven't seen that. But to me, I'm thinking Andy Reid is still a very good coach. His history, his reputation proves that many times over. The fact that they were even in the position to three-peat proves that as well. So I don't think we should overreact. But again, I kind of assumed that if they were to three-peat, that Andy Reid was going to retire. So it's very interesting to see in this complete colossal of failure if he comes back for at least one more, because you don't really want to end on that, you know? So it's been interesting. So I think whatever happens in the front office and the coaching staff type situation with KC will determine what happens on the field with players. Like I said, I would like to see Patrick have another like go catch a ball kind of guy. The news of Travis potentially wanting to retire, like I said, is news to me. If he does, then you need another go get him tight end. And even to that, it's a little scary to think about what that looks like, because the Patrick Travis kind of symmetry of just the synchronicity that they have, like when Pat's in trouble and kind of just flicks it up and Travis somehow catches it and goes for like another 6 yards running, forward progress is just, we've seen that escape happen multiple times. And even to that, I want to say shout out to the Eagles defense, because they kind of shut down Travis as an option. He had very few catches. I don't think he didn't have any catches in the whole first half. Now, granted, KC didn't have a lot of possessions in the first half in total. Yeah, I think if he does retire, then that's another thing to consider big time. I think Travis is a large part of Patrick Mahomes' success. And I don't mean that in any way, but just to Patrick, I'm just kind of saying that as a nod to Travis. He has been a very, very good tight end for KC as a whole, but also just kind of being like the Robin to Patrick Mahomes' Batman. Like, if you're going to look about in terms of comparable, you think of I think of that combination kind of like how the Brady and Gronk combination was. I know history-wise, I believe Travis just passed Tony Gonzalez's stats. So, like, what Travis has been doing in the tight end position is definitely in the realm of other big names and respected names in that position. So he's no scrub, is what I'm saying. So if he does, in fact, retire, I think that's a big hole in their offensive line, scheme, lineup, just everything. So if I'm Patrick, I'm spending my whole offseason making sure that Travis comes back. The Giants. Oh gosh, the Giants. I don't even know what I want them to do, because here's the thing, as a New Yorker, I will always be a Giants fan, but it hurts. It hurts sometimes. I don't know what I want them to do. It's so ridiculous them getting rid of Daniel, because here's the thing. We told them never to get them in the first place, and then definitely told them not to sign him like that. And then they did all of that to then let him go. So it's like, all right, so got you. No quarterback, no running back. Just great. So yeah, the NFL, there's a lot of things happening in the offseason. The draft is coming up soon. Honestly, I think a lot of these teams that were bad but are getting like a lot of these young talent. Like, let's remember, Primetime son Shador is coming to the draft this year. So yeah, you do have some. Selfishly, I would love Shador in New York, but it's probably not going to happen. It's probably also not the best place for him. But yeah, so we do have some young talent that can come in. I don't love the concept of like, a young talent coming in and saving a franchise. I think that's a lot of pressure. I feel like if you're a young player, and I don't care how good you are, you should be able to come into at least a stable environment. And if nothing else, learn how to be a pro while you're also shining as a player, even if you are the best player. Not everybody gets that situation. I will say this. I think Jaden Daniels, what he did with the Washington Commanders this season is phenomenal. Now, that entire team from beginning to end, front office to back office to field, everything was an upheaval. And a lot of it had to do with the changing of culture. So I think Jaden also kind of lucked out in terms of coming to that team when they had a little bit of stability and a little bit of forethought in terms of what the team is going to look like and the direction they want to go. I say they did all of that work so that when he did join, it was a good situation and a healthier situation for him to step in and just play. And then him being the talent that he is, was able to lead a team of good guys that you have a good core to work with. You had a little bit of talent and a little bit of hope and inspiration, and you see what they were able to do this season. So it's interesting to see what these guys are going to be doing, especially coming through the draft. But this is where, we'll kind of take a peek at the offseason and see how teams rebuild and adjust. And I'm definitely excited for next season and see what happens. Yeah, guys, I think we just need to lock in and pay attention. Okay, y'all. Remember, yell respectfully. Bye.